will call this February 6, 2023 Grand Rapids Public School Board meeting to order. I would like to welcome everyone that is here tonight. We appreciate your presence. We respectfully request that you turn off cell phones and refrain from clapping, cheering, or making audible comments. We invite you to make formal public comment during the designated times on either agenda items or non-agenda items, and you may make it on both if you wish. The comment cards are at the back tables near the entrance, and then we will start with the roll.
Ms. Melton?
Present.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Here.
Mr. Ross?
Here.
Ms. Shockey?
Here.
Ms. Wade?
Present.
Ms. Davis? Mr. Eatman?
Present.
Ms. Lewis, present. President Williams?
Present.
We are all here.
And may we have a motion for the approval of, let me fix that. All in favor of the agenda, please say aye. Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
All in favor?
I think there is some interest in approving the agenda, but with removing the, what was it? Mr. Eatman, Mr. Rodriguez, I know we had a conversation about item you wanted to pull.
So it looks like somehow this has gotten updated because it's no longer on there.
Well, disregard, thank you, excuse me.
Okay. Wonderful. So,
I don't know what he said.
we're all in favor of the approval
Okay.
of the agenda? And
And that's it. Okay, that's all I need to know.
celebrate?
All right, so good evening, everyone. Happy February. Happy Monday. We have a couple of different celebrations. It's always just wonderful when we can have our scholars present their learning out loud and all of their different talents. And so we're going to begin with the Martin Luther King Jr. Social Justice Legacy Contest. Say that 5 times fast. Mr. Eric Harmson and Miss Malika Brown are going to present what it is and our wonderful scholars who participated in it.
Good evening, President Williams, Superintendent Roby, and distinguished board members. It is my pleasure to introduce Malika Brown, Director of Equity and Inclusion. Malika will be talking about our Social Justice Legacy Contest and contest winners. The Social Justice Legacy Contest is a partnership between GRPS and Warner Norcross and Judd. Please join me in celebrating and hearing our scholar voices.
Good evening, Superintendent Roby, President Williams, and the rest of the board members. Nearly 55 years after his death, the legacy and impact of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s commitment to social justice remains, and we observe it through the voices of our community's youth. It is a pleasure for me to sit before you again this evening and take part in honoring the voices of 208 of our 6th grade scholars and the dedicated staff at 13 of our middle schools, on full display through essays, art, poetry, prose, presentation, and video projects. I have had the privilege of working alongside our dedicated staff and the staff of Warner Norcross and Judd for the past 5 years, and each of these years we've seen growth in the terms of expanding the opportunities for our scholars' voice through access and to make it more accessible for each and every one of our 6th graders. So through an 18-year partnership with the law offices of Warner Norcross and Judd, we are given the opportunity to witness Dr. King's impact through the voices of our 6th grade scholars. So tonight I'm pleased to introduce Mrs. Courtney Thaler, Community Relations Manager for Warner Norcross and Judd, who will help us recognize our top 28 honorees.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much again for having us here. This is one of the highlights of my job every year, and it is an honor and a privilege to have this collaboration with Grand Rapids Public Schools and Malika, who's just incredible, and I could not do this without her. So Malika has given you kind of the overview of the entries this year. I want to let you know, behind the scenes, we had 60 members of our law firm review each submission. We had 4 judges per grouping. So every entry was reviewed by at least 4 different judges. And then we had a final judging panel that identified the top 3 winners. And then this year we had an additional 25 honorable mentions. The first place winner this year did receive an iPad. Second place received a Kindle Fire tablet. And then third place and honorable mentions are all receiving a gift card to We Are Lit Multicultural Bookshop. Books can be purchased online or at the retail shop down on Monroe Center. And we continue to just be blown away by the insights, the perspectives, the personal experiences, the vulnerability that these students display every year as they reflect upon the legacy of Martin Luther King. Before I issue or announce this year, I'm going to go through and share with you who the winners were this year and the additional honorable mentions. And those students that are here would, please come up and grab your certificate and gift card from me. But before I do that, we did put together a video that highlights this year's 3 winners. So I'll have Malika tee that up for us. Perfect.
I had a great experience in being a part of this process. I was very inspired and encouraged by how real Dr. King's legacy is to the students who entered the contest. And I was also struck by the variety of everything that the students entered. We had poems, we had collages, we had paintings, we had essays, and all of them were really exciting to see. I feel like this contest is important because it's important to let students engage with Dr. King's legacy. Dr. King had one of the most famous dreams in our nation's history, and so having students engage critically and intentionally with that dream in all variety of ways is why this contest is important and why we keep doing it every year. We want to provide a thank you to everyone who participated this year. This year we had 208 entries from 13 schools and 60 volunteer judges. We want to issue a special congratulations to the 3 winners that you'll be seeing here tonight.
My essay, I kind of just poured my heart into it, and I just really spoke from my heart and my facts about it. And I was bullied kind of in 2nd and 1st grade, but I didn't really listen to them and let them affect me about it. And I just became positive about myself. Well, just because you're bullying does not make you seem cooler, or it just makes you look like a bully, and it's not fun to other people. It really hurts people, and it scars them, and it's can also carry on with trauma. Yeah, words can be really powerful sometimes, especially if they're mean words. But sometimes if they're encouraging, they can really lift you, make you happy and smile, and it really just makes you a positive person. Well, I think that about me, I don't know, I just really love Martin Luther King. I just love to write, and also I think writing about him just makes me happy.
Well, my essay, it's mostly about the injustices that people of color have faced and what they deal with day to day. And it mostly talks about all the trials and tribulations we face just because of the color of our skin, and how we don't get treated the same way as some other people. I chose to do an essay because it's really in my background, and my father, he's really good with words, and it's kind of with me. I like writing. I titled it that way because just the way I see on the news and sometimes my own experiences personally, things are just not as just as they should be just because of our skin color. Well, in the first part of my essay, I wanted to mention him because he's a really important person in Black history, and I've been a fan of Martin Luther King myself, and I wanted to put him in that just to kind of respect him. Well, I chose that quote because in 5th grade previously, my teacher had been teaching us about how we should treat people fairly and how to be kind to one another. And she showed us this video. It's about this kid on YouTube. His name is Kid President. And that's one of the quotes he said. And I just thought it really stuck with me. When I won the award and when my principal told me, I just felt really excited and shocked. And at the moment, I thought I'd fallen asleep in class and was dreaming about this. And then when she told me, I was just kind of frozen for a minute and thinking about what that meant and how fortunate I was to do that.
I chose Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks for my artwork because I thought they would be a good role model. I thought they would be good role models because Martin Luther King tried to stop racism in black and white people. And Rosa Parks, I thought she would be a good role model because she tried to stick up for her community. And she didn't let go of her piece of black people. When people see my artwork, I want them to feel passion and beautifulness in black people because some people think black people are not supposed to be in this world, but they are. My artwork connect with Martin Luther King Jr. because I used his speech in my painting a little bit, and I used some of the black images that I saw on there. I thought it would be cool to add something from Martin Luther King Jr. and put some of his legacy in our legacy. I chose the sentence because I thought it would be cool and the time will be always right for black people to stand out in their community. No matter what the time is always to do right, no matter it's bullying, standing up for yourself, or racism.
Before I read out the students, the winners this year and the honorable mentions, I do also want to give a shout out to all of the principals and teachers that make this possible. It really is a tremendous effort from a collective group of people, and so I want to take a moment to acknowledge the teachers and principals. So if you're here tonight and I call your name, please come up and accept your certificate, and we will hold our applause until the very end and give all these students the hooping and hollering that they deserve. So first place is Kanaya Sutton. I don't believe she's here. Second place was Remington Davis. Third place is Jakia Brooks, and those are the three that you saw highlighted in the video this evening. And then moving into our honorable mentions, we have Zachary Walker from Aberdeen Academy, Jeremiah Williams from Alger, Ishan Volta from Blandford, Areli Sanchez from Burton, Bridget Anderson from CFE, Autumn Calloway from CFE. Aurelia Castaneda from CFE. Andrea Simpan from CFE. Mason Davis from CFE. Amelia Yuga from CFE. Kaden Jurowitz from CFE.
Thank you.
Campo McKinnon from CFE. I did not plan that they would all be in line. As I read them, that was perfect. I should have had you all lined up, right? Oscar Neal from CFE. Stephanie Perez from CFE. Cora Rietzema from CFE. Dax Severs from CFE. Minor Monteroso Rivera from Dickinson. Demira Jones from Gerald R. Ford. Day Anderson from Grand Rapids Montessori. Sophia McLean from Grand Rapids Montessori. Arlo Novosad from Grand Rapids Montessori. Addison Williams from Grand Rapids University Prep. Alexander Jimenez from Harrison Park. Jakaya Murphy from MLK. And Journey Churchwell from Westwood Middle School. Okay, let's give them all a round of applause. And every student that participated will be receiving a certificate of completion. So thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you.
And to our scholars, we are so very proud of you using your talents and your minds to demonstrate Dr. King's legacy. So keep working hard and just know that we love to see the work that you're doing. Our next celebration is from Burton Elementary, Apple's Distinguished School Renewal, and this is with Dr. Maida Gunnell and Principal Miss Amarina Nelson.
Oh my goodness.
There's got to be something to that. I can't wait to hear.
Good evening, Dr. Roby, President Williams, distinguished board members. It's our pleasure to be here tonight. And it is my pleasure to introduce you to Amarina Nelson, principal of Burton Elementary, who will talk to you about the Distinguished Award.
Hello, good evening. It's 100 days of school, so I'm supposed to be 100 years old today.
Thank you for that clarification.
Go to school like this. But thank you so much for allowing us to celebrate some of the amazing accomplishments that we have at Burton Elementary. So Burton Elementary has again been renewed as an Apple Distinguished School, as an ADS school. And this is a really, really big deal. There are only 3 in the entire state that are given this recognition, and we are the only public school to be recognized. Throughout the world, there are just over 700 schools and educational institutions that are recognized as Apple Distinguished Schools in over 36 countries. So it truly is an amazing honor and a huge point of pride for Grand Rapids Public Schools to have this school and this distinction right here. I actually have some of our amazing staff members here that are going to tell you a little bit more about what it means to be an Apple Distinguished School. This is my only second year with Burton Elementary, and our staff have really seen how this has developed and grown over the years. So I'm going to have Ms. Migalski first, and I do have to share this amazing hardware that we have from Apple. You know, they always have the fancy things.
Good evening. My name is Jen Migalski. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Burton. A little history about our Apple journey. In July of 2014, we wrote a grant applying for over a $1 million award in iPads, MacBooks, infrastructure overhaul, and training. We were awarded that grant in October of 2014. Our one-to-one implementation with scholars began in fall of 2016. This is some of the data we used to acquire our initial distinction as an ADS school from 2019 to 2022. Our level of satisfactory attendance went up from 84% to 93%. Our number of behavior incidents went down from almost 500 to 150. Little did we know all of the amazing work our scholars would create. Here's Kate to highlight some of their projects.
So I'm Kate Wigman, 1st grade bilingual teacher at Burton, and I'm here to showcase how our Burton community utilizes Apple technology to reshape the education experience. I have this QR code, not sure how to get it all to you, but we'll get there. Okay. Teachers and students work together to connect to the world, collaborate with one another, create unique projects, and discover what learning personally means to them. Burton Learning is number 1, connected. 5th grade students use the Grand Rapids Public Museum's archives to research primary sources and create commercials promoting products from a historical era. Burton Learning is number 2, collaborative. First graders in my class created a class story with the vocabulary words that we used all year. We used Keynote to create illustrations and pages for a picture book template, and then we published it for our classroom library. Burton Learning is number 3, creative. 4th grade students in Nina's class wrote scripts, gathered props, directed and filmed videos to inform the rest of the school about our Spirit Week dress-up days. And Burton Learning is number 4, personal. 3rd graders use a variety of tools to research their chosen weather phenomenon and act as kid meteorologists to show how they would react. Additionally, features like text-to-speech on the iPads and dictation ensure independence and ownership of learning for students of all language proficiencies, as 75% of our student population speak a language other than English at home. But don't just take my word for it. Ina has been a teacher at Burton for 35 years, and she would like to share how Apple technology has transformed her practice.
When we became an Apple Distinguished School, I did not have any idea how it would change me as a teacher. Those changes has helped me to change my scholars. It's incredible. When I first started teaching, colored chalk was high tech. And so I taught with the chalkboard, been there. But giving the iPad to the student is more than students working on an iPad. It is so much more. As a distinguished school, we get training. We get to collaborate with other schools. There's so much that our students can do when they leave Burton. They think outside of the box differently. I can present a problem to my students and they say, oh, I know how to do that. And they go for their iPad. And they're not going on the iPad just to go play games or to do that. They're really using it to think. They're using the whole suite. They're using Keynote, Pages. They know how to insert. They know how to make everything dance. You know, they're going way beyond colored chalk, I'll tell you. And I invite you to come and see them. If you can't come in person, we can fix you up with technology. The kids can do it. We don't have to do it as teachers. They know. By the time they get to 4th grade, these students can do, PowerPoint is old school for them. They're incredible. And what the Apple Distinguished Schools have done for me, they've connected me with other people all over the world. I met with people from Brazil, from Spain earlier in the year. They're helping my students connect. We did Hour of Code, and the students were able to connect with people outside of the building. You'll see, if you come to Burton, you will see our students being prepared to move forward and with incredible skills. I'm so proud to be a distinguished teacher at Burton. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to the Burton team. Again, we had examples of our young scholars using their minds well, and it comes from having teachers being innovative and creative. So thank you to the Burton team for just sharing the output of the work, your hard work. We certainly appreciate you.
Next, we have our scholar representative report. Ms. Muhammad, would you like to go? Did you have anything? Nothing? Mr. Liggett?
Yeah. So I attended the Winter Expo. It was, I saw some of you there. It was really fun. The food was really good, so I definitely enjoyed that aspect of it. And sadly, I hope there's one at the end of the year so I can go again before I graduate. So there's that. At our last Superintendent Scholar Advisory Council meeting, we met with the Director of Food and Nutrition. Scholars expressed their concerns for food within the district. And we also discussed further in the future of how we can put our input into the food choices that we are eating. And we also got these cool new pullovers. So that was really fun. ICHS is having their Academic Excellence Award Night next week, Wednesday. And as you know, it's Valentine's month, so they're having their Valentine's Day dance next week, Tuesday. And then last week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I got the opportunity to go camping with the North Park 4th, 5th, and 6th graders to be a camp counselor for their winter camp. And it was a fun experience. I was with them for most of the day. In a few hours, I would go do schoolwork with the other 11 counselors from Grand Rapids Montessori. and it's just a really fun experience. We got to hang out with the kids more, do some activities, do some archery, and just bond with them better. So love that.
Thank you. And then we'll go to our first public comment.
Is this or is it for later? Yep, it's for later.
Okay. So we have nothing for board agenda items, and then we have our secretary's report.
I do not have a report tonight.
All righty. Wonderful. The next is a report on the National School Board Association Equity Symposium and Advocacy Institute. And so I will share information from that. We talked about, we met in DC, and it was really an opportunity for our representatives across the country to come and share with us issues around legislation that is before them. So we also had an opportunity to learn about trends that are happening across the country with other districts, particularly around enrollment and around funding. So they lots of broad examples of how funding is taking place and changes that are occurring there. We also learned that there was not much support for the IDEA full funding, and that we would be really lucky to get a percentage increase or so. So that was disheartening to hear that many of our congressmen and leaders from Michigan had already kind of had their mind made up about that before we got into those meetings, but we did still go to Capitol Hill to advocate for proper funding for that, as well as some potential new legislation comes down the pike to voice against that legislation in some regards. And then again, if indeed it was to go through, that the proper funding would be attached to that. We shared examples with our congressmen and women about some of the issues that are particular to our district. We shared about issues that are going on in Kent County as well. We came together with Kent ISD partners to share this. So we met with Hillary Skolten, and we also met with Representative Molinar. And they were very warm and receptive, but at the same time, we were not necessarily able to get the reassurances from everyone that they would support things around public education. So additionally, we had an equity symposium, and this year it was particular around rural school districts. And we were talking about how based on issues situating a lot of stereotypes around rural districts, that they will have everything that they need, that there are not equity issues in their environments as well. So that was the primary focus of the equity symposium. They did share issues around things such as Wi-Fi, not just in the home, but also on the buses. Some of the students travel a long way to get to and from school, and to have that opportunity to have Wi-Fi on buses could make a difference in their ability to do homework during that transportation time. So it was issues around, again, rural schools. Some of it didn't necessarily apply to us, but the things that did apply, we did take that information in, and it was shared with district leadership. So we are appreciative of the opportunity as well to, again, just come together to be thought partners with the Kent ISD, the other districts that were there, and to share and glean information from them. We thank them for our opportunity to come together and be able to, they hosted a dinner for us to be able to share and meet and really get to know each other better. So that was also a part of that conference. So there was a lot. I'm trying to decide on how much to share. I think that's pretty good for now, because otherwise I'll go in a tangent. So that is the information from that. Are there any chair updates from the Academic Achievement Committee?
Yes, we had our first meeting of the year this past Thursday, although we will be on a rotation of third Tuesdays of the month. But as opposed to waiting until the end of the month, we did go ahead and have our first for the year on this past Thursday. And the Academic Achievement Committee, just for those who are interested, is myself, Ms. Melton, Ms. Wade, and Ms. Lewis. But our agenda consisted of a few things. We had an instructional council update. That update was primarily about the vetting of a couple of textbooks, particularly for some history classes that we have right now. We had an ESSER update, and again, that wasn't a full ESSER update. Obviously, that would fall in the realm of the Finance Committee, but from an academic perspective, just a little insight on what we're spending some of the ESSER dollars on, and a couple of things in particular focus as far as those ESSER funds. And there's a HBCU tour that we are exploring and putting together for some of our high school scholars. There's an initiative, Book Nook. Book Nook is sort of it's a virtual tutoring service, but it does have an actual human being that sets a virtual tutoring relationship with the student. It definitely is something we're just exploring right now. I think we will be launching that this semester with the hopes of that the early returns will be promising to extend that to the rest of our community for next school year. We also did have a general strategic plan update, and just really how some of the things that are on the table fit into our strategic plan. Probably the meat of our meeting centered around a 98B report. 98B is a part of Public Act 144 of 2022. So it's a state law, basically, that says the districts must have middle and end of the year end targets. Those targets must include academic achievement or growth. And there must be a benchmark assessment, and then we have to report that in aggregate by subgroup, grade, and scholar demographics. So in regards to our 98B report, we did get some insight into what our current student growth percentiles are. Student growth percentiles basically being the growth that, and again, this data is reported aggregate by grade level, so it's not individual student or even individual schools, but by grade level, what is the aggregate growth percentile from fall to spring, and then from spring to fall. So when we look at that data, some good news in that our early elementary students, particularly our kindergarten students, their growth percentile was a bit higher than the national average, but our other grade levels were a bit lower than the national average. So that obviously is some opportunity there to unpack that a bit more on sort of the growth trajectory of our students as they proceed through the district. Then we also went into a literacy plan overview that was broken down with our pre-K-5 literacy plan and then our secondary literacy plan. But in essence, though, what we're doing from a literacy plan overview is we have about 100 teachers who are pretty much working to some degree in addition to what they do during their regular school days, and they are really unpacking and developing through their PLC communities our literacy framework, which consists of some level 1 and 2 supports with the in-core instruction. But some of the meat of it is that really every teacher in the district, although you're a science teacher, to some degree you should also be a literacy teacher. So how do we weave literacy throughout the curriculum regardless of content area? So with that, we have about 100 teachers who are going into that work now, and as that cohort continues to grow, the idea is for those folks then to help expand this throughout the district. So every teacher, regardless of content area, has some strategies in regards to literacy and improvement, and weaving that into their respective content areas. And then the other topic we went into briefly was about our take-home library initiative, which is a great initiative right now through working with Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble is pretty much, I don't know, I may be dating myself, but they mentioned the old school book fair. I don't know who all had the book fair. You know, that was pretty exciting at school. So it's similar to that, sort of the spirit of that, where on respective days, the schools that are involved in that right now are Burton Elementary and Middle, Aberdeen, Westwood, and Harrison, UPrep, Sherwood, and Stocking. Those are the ones on the on the calendar right now, but basically there's going to be, each respective week, there'll be dozens or hundreds of books pretty much set up for students to have the opportunity to select the book of their choice, maybe even multiple books, I suppose, up to 5 books of their choice. And again, the idea is, if we want folks to read, part of that is, giving them actually things, to read. And I, for one, I'm a big believer in good old paper and bound books and things like that. It just adds a different sort of love for reading, in my opinion. But so I'm definitely happy to see that, we have this set up for at least the next 2 years, and we'll see what happens from there. And otherwise, those are Academic Achievement Committee. I did send you some thoughts on possible topics moving forward. So as we begin to establish the calendar for the rest of the year, please share your thoughts with that. And our next Academic Achievement Committee meeting will be the third Tuesday in February, which is February 21st. And so we do have 2 this month. But again, I thought it was wise for us to go ahead and get on that schedule as opposed to wait until the 3rd week in March. Just seemed like too big of a break to really for this important work. But Julie probably will, I shouldn't say Julie, Diane is our administrative liaison, so she will be sending those calendar appointments out. But again, the 21st at 4:30. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Ross? All righty, we'll go on to the Finance Committee.
Great, thank you, President Williams. So the Finance Committee met for the first time in the new year on Monday, January 30th. The committee this year is made up of myself, of course, as chair, Ms. Davis, Mr. Eatman, and Mr. Rodriguez. And it was a complex first committee meeting for our new board colleagues who were presented with their first budget amendment. So we actually started the committee meeting with GRPS 101, Finance 101. So a high-level look at school finance, which, as I mentioned, is complex. How do we receive revenues? How are those decided? What are the largest percentages of expenses in the district? What are all the acronyms and title funding? So we did a GRPS Finance 101 and then moved into looking through our budget amendments. So for my new colleagues, we see 3 budgets every year. So the first, which we approve in June, and then we receive an amendment in January, the first one, and another amendment in May on an annual basis. Part of that is because we as a district are required to have an approved budget by June 30th. Our fiscal year starts July 1st. But the state's not required to pass their budget until the end of their fiscal year, which is September 30th. So we always have this First Amendment, which is often making correct our assumptions on what we're going to be receiving for per pupil accounting. So that is a big portion of this budget amendment that comes forward this evening. And then also, again, looking at, staffing and vacant positions and substitute teachers, and those items are always adjusted at this first budget amendment. So you'll see 3 that have been recommended. We always have 3 budgets: our general fund, our special revenue fund, and our debt retirement fund. Those are recommended for approval this evening. We also went through our purchasing agenda and addressed, again, many of the terms we use often. It's great to have new minds and questions in the group to remind us about some of the things we get used to saying all the time that I recognize community's not always tracking on because we just get comfortable, So I was really grateful for my new colleagues asking lots of really great questions at finance. So this evening you have a purchasing agenda in front of you. There was 1 item tabled, and we're going to have some more information about our SEL curriculum tonight that will then come forward as an independent purchasing agenda item. And we also approved some donations that are in the consent agenda grouping this evening. Much like Mr. Ross and the Academic Achievement Committee, on finance, we're going to be diving deep into one topic every month, hopefully throughout the year. So in our February meeting, we're going to look at purchasing in Grand Rapids Public Schools. How do we make these decisions? How do vendors get engaged with the district? What are blanket orders? Why do we change them? All things purchasing. As we move into March, we'll do a deeper dive into donations. How does the district accept those? How are decisions made about where donations go? So that is our plan moving forward through the rest of the year for finance.
Thank you, Ms. Shackey. And then the superintendent's report.
Good evening again. So we're going to begin with Mr. Hendricks, who's going to come and tell us about the importance of our spring count. I'll invite him forward. And Mr. Atkins, I guess, is joining him.
I got the eye. By popular demand. All right, good evening. So yes, we get 10% of our funding from the February count day. Obviously, still an important part of our process, but not quite as important as the big one in the fall. So we have done our social media marketing campaign just to make sure folks get the word out of how important it is that their kids, our scholars, are in school on that day in particular.
Now, I would just add, and so Wednesday, February 8th, and so we're shooting for, every day is important, but we're really shooting for 100% attendance if possible. So if you're sick, if you can't be there for a reason, just call, the main office, and then you have a few extra days to get there. And so it's important that, as Mr. Hendricks said, we do get 10% of our funding for this. And I know most schools have something fun planned, some activity that gets them there, get them excited. But it's an important part of the budget, and also it's really just another important learning day.
It's correct that the funding is for next calendar year, correct?
Correct. That's correct.
Decided here.
That's correct. Any questions?
Any questions?
No questions, but by hook or crook, get your baby to school that day.
Yes, please do.
Yes. I have a question. So if they are excused that day, they have to come within the next 3 days?
No, very good question. And so there's, if you kind of unpack it a little bit, if you're unexcused, you have 10 days to come back, and then if you're excused, you have 30 days.
Okay. I thought you said 3.
No, really 10 and 30. Okay. And so much easier if you come that day.
And we encourage kids we encourage our scholars on every day to come to school, because even in missing school, you're missing learning. And similar to, and I'll keep it local and immediate, if I'm ever absent, it usually takes me 2 to 3 days to catch up on one day. And so with the young people, we want to make sure that we provide every opportunity, and we know that people get sick or have appointments, and we respect that, but just as much as possible, attendance is important for school, for learning, and for building school community.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So next, the next set of kind of presentations are related to our work with our facilities and buildings, and 2 of the presentations are follow-ups. Earlier in the year, we had some conversations and quite a few public comments around our facilities with our pool, so we'll get some information about that. And if you recall, in the fall, Innovation Central, as we are in the midst of remodeling, and whenever you do a remodeling project, you don't always know what's behind the walls until you start to get into the walls. And so there were some things that we had to address, and Mr. Smart and Mr. Johnson will be coming forward to give an update around where we are with that Innovation Central wall. Also this evening, we're having an update, as Sammy alluded to, Mr. Philip Green met with our superintendent scholar group last month and provided an overview over USDA choices and kind of the guidelines of which we have to do, but then also heard very clearly from our scholars about choice and other things that we can do creatively around food services. And I know that he and Mr. Johnson have done a lot of field trips to other places, and they're going to provide an update on that. And then finally, we'll go to Mr. Atkins and his team to provide the overview related to what Ms. Shockey referred to about the social emotional curriculum update. So I'll invite Mr. Johnson and Mr. Smart to come talk about the Innovation Central Wall first.
Good evening, everyone. President Williams, Dr. Roby, distinguished board members. Let's see, we have a little presentation here. There we go. As Dr. Roby explained, sometimes when we're doing renovation work, we find some surprises. So what I want to do is, because I know that some of our board members are not necessarily that knowledgeable on what happened back in the fall, like take us a little bit back to what we did. Basically, we'll go through the sequence of events and what has transpired and where we are today. So back in October, part of the scope of work that we have on this project was doing some tuck pointing and masonry restoration. So the contractor was on site doing their work, and they started noticing that there were a lot of bricks that were really loose and mortar joints and being pushed back. And as we started looking into that and removing the bricks, we started finding, we found rusting steel. And the steel was pretty much the columns that were holding that roof and that wall in place. And this is the north wall in the auditorium. I know that there have been questions before about whether or not we have the same condition throughout the building, but in this case, this is the only location in the building that we have structural steel columns. Everything else is concrete. And we did take a look at the whole building, and we do not have the same condition. So as we did the investigation, we contacted structural engineers and the architecture team, and they came and looked, and they did ask us to do some, let's call it destructive inspections, where we actually had to remove brick and cut holes in the wall to begin to see what we were finding. And you can see in the pictures there that we started finding that some of the steel columns were really, really damaged. And the structural team did the analysis, and they deemed that the building really, that wall, not the building, that wall was not necessarily structurally sound. So we started looking into safety protocols. The structural engineers did calculations using building codes and structural information to determine that the wall would be fine, but there were two parameters that we needed to be concerned with, which were 25-mile wind, gust wind, and 55-mile wind. We develop a safety fall zone that is, again, is dictated by building codes, and we make sure that all the perimeter around that area was safe and not accessible to anyone other than the construction crew. At 55 miles an hour wind, the construction crew would not be around the site, just for safety reasons. And we determined that at 55 miles, we would just evacuate the building, just as a precaution. The students were safe, but we just wanted to be overly cautious. We also installed a weather station on the roof that will be able to monitor what was going on. So then we started looking into the plan.
Alex, I just want to give the context for everyone. So we also met with a meteorologist to ask what was the likelihood of a 55-mile wind, and that really is like hurricane-type winds. And so, not to say it could never happen, but the likelihood in the middle of the Midwest, it would be likely not to happen.
Yes, and we would have at least 3 to 5 days advance notice. So we started looking into developing a plan, and the plan was fairly simple. We needed to shore the wall. We needed to do a structural shoring. Then we need to demolish the building. The wall, not the building. Demolish the wall and start the reconstruction of the wall. The shoring plan has been completed. The design work is done. We have received some pricing, and right now, just for the shoring alone, we're looking at approximately $250,000 just for us to be able to secure the structure. Now, where we are today, we are actually receiving information from different manufacturers. The team is looking at the options that we have to rebuild. Unfortunately, to rebuild it the way that it was, it would not necessarily meet building codes today. It would require some other things that we need to add to the structure of the building to be able to handle that. So we're looking at other options, and one of those options is some pre-manufactured panels. Also, we're looking into stick building and then adding the brick veneer on the outside. So we're just getting some prices right now for that, so we don't have the overall cost of the repair. And the timeline, we are anticipating that this repair work and rebuilding probably will not be completed until June of this year, pending, obviously, the supply line and getting the materials that we need. On the screen is just a little graphic to show what the new structure of the wall would be. It's just simple structural steel framing, and then we will be filling in with the panels that we're talking about. So in essence, that's where we are today. If you have any questions.
Yeah, I have a quick question for you. You mentioned a few slides back that it was $250,000. Can you distinguish between that particular point that you just made and the comment you made after that stated that you don't have the full scope of the cost and what that estimated cost
Correct.
would be?
Sure. Since the shoring is the very first thing that we need to do, is to secure the building. We have already received some costs just for the shoring, but we have not yet received final costs for the demolition work. We have not received the final cost for the rebuilding of the wall. So we're waiting for that. We have contacted 6 different manufacturers that make these pre-manufactured panels, and we're waiting to hear back from them to see what the possibility is for them to give us prices and what the price may be. So,
I know you've had the privilege of sharing your background. With your background, if you being an architect, do you have a range of where you think that will fall?
For the overall project? Mm-hmm. Well, I would be speculating right now, but since you asked me, I guess we can give you a guesstimate at this point, but we're probably looking at the overall project repairs here to be between $2 and $3 million.
Excuse me? What did you say, 200 million?
No, 2 and 3.
Oh.
$2 and $3 million.
Let's build a new school. Oh.
That would be one expensive wall, right?
I have a question. Is there a discernment process already in place in the district with which we look at these kind of repairs and, refine whether the decision to rebuild a portion versus really looking at that entire building? Is there a process for going about deciding? Just rebuild versus repair?
When you're talking about rebuilding the entire building or just the...
Yeah, well, when we're looking at the building at Central, that is very much, it's one of our original buildings. It's very old. It's very, outdated in terms of its educational purposes, in terms of incorporating like future-ready learning and all of those components. So is there a process we go through where we say this building only has this much life left in it, so the investment, would change. What do we do about that?
Well, normally when we look at the and assess or existing buildings, whether we're going to replace them or not, we try to use a little thumb rule that if the cost to renovate and repair is within 20-30% of what it will cost to build brand new, we would go new. In this case, Mr. Johnson probably has a little bit more history as to the decision process.
Yeah, we had architects and engineers look at that project prior to starting, and unfortunately, with labor cost and the cost of materials increasing, it kind of rolls up a little bit above what we had originally anticipated. Yeah. But in all the projects that we do, all the renovations that we do, we get the engineers and the architects in there to really take a deep dive into the building, looking at structurally to see how sound the building is. But until you start tearing in the walls, you really just don't know what you have.
Yeah. So generally speaking, 20 to 30%.
Then we start looking at new.
Didn't we just put quite a bit of money in that school as far as?
We're in the process of it. We're working on it.
With all those
That's when we
fences
discovered
inside.
this challenge right here. Yes.
Other questions?
Okay. Thank you.
I think we'll be followed up by Mr. Kurt Johnson on some updates on the pool situation at Ottawa Hills High School, and as we've began to work through that process as well.
Yes. Should we move forward with that one? With the Ottawa swimming pool?
Yeah, you're going to give the update on it? Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So after the board meeting where we had quite a few parents and scholars voicing their concern, we organized a meeting with the parents. The meeting took place on the 24th of January. We had a really good turnout. We had about 18 parents and scholars there. And it was a very, from our perspective, productive meeting, dialogue. We had the opportunity to share with them the background of the challenges, of the problems that we have with the leaky pipes and losing 1,500 gallons of water a day. They voiced their concerns again, and we have to own the fact that I'll own this, that I could have done a much better job of communicating with them ahead of time. So we have committed that we will continue to communicate with them. We collected email addresses from the parents that were here at the board meeting, plus the parents that were at this one meeting, and we have already sent them the minutes of the meeting that we had with them. In that meeting, we share with them the options that we have to repair the pipes. We're looking at 3 options. We're still struggling trying to find contractors and consultants that are willing to take on the project. It's kind of one of those dirty jobs that they don't have it's not glamorous. so many contractors are not doing it, but we do have some appointments coming up here. One of the options that we're looking, and our research actually showed that it was a better option than we originally anticipated, which is the pipelining. Our concern was the life expectancy of the pipelining. We discovered that it could be up to about 50 years. So it is a very viable option that we're exploring.
Alex, will you just, for the sake of our board and those who are listening, in like 2 sentences, explain what pipelining is?
Yes.
For those of us who are novices.
Yes. So what pipelining is the contractor will put in there a sleeve inside the existing pipe. Well, first they'll clean it. And then they put a sleeve inside the existing pipe, and they put a chemical that within, I think, 48 hours, it hardens and it becomes like a PVC pipe. So it's a hard, solid pipe. So it's not a soft material, it's a hard material. It does reduce the diameter of the pipe very, very little, just for the thickness of this chemical once it hardens, but it's very, very effective. And then we can do that without having to do a whole lot of demolition, which the other, one of the options would be to completely tear the concrete out and replace all the pipes. That would be the most expensive option. So did that answer the question? Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that people understood what pipelining was.
Do we have sort of a cost on that?
No, right now we have an estimate that we're using, a budget number that we're using about $500,000, $500,000. But as we're continuing to do the research, that number may be less than that. So, and I think Mr. Kurt Johnson has some other updates.
Good evening. Good evening, Madam President Williams, Dr. Roby, and distinguished board members. It's time to register for Turkey Trot.
No.
Just a joke. just a joke. But registration is open, and we got like almost 400 people there. But I'm Kurt Johnson, so I work with athletics all across the district, and I just want to talk to you about a couple of updates on the programmatic side. And the programmatic side is to make sure that our teams and our coaches still have access to pools throughout this process. And so, as you all know, that we're using City Pool right now as one of the alternate sites there. But we are keeping our dialogue open and our relationship with a couple of our other community partners that we've worked with in the past when we've had pool usage issues there. GRCC happens to be one of them. Calvin College happens to be another. And then we're exploring the fourth option as well to make sure that we have we can be able to pivot at a moment's notice if we need to. So there's another pool that's on the southeast side in close proximity to Ottawa Hills that we're starting a conversation with and building a relationship and trying to draft out a contract for usage there. So we want to make sure our students have access to pool usage throughout this process. And then also at the meeting, I think we did a pretty good job of building a common understanding of what both sides needs are. You know, we did heard through the frustration and the feedback from the parents, but then they also heard some of the challenges on our side as well. And I think we had a really good meeting in the middle there. So I expect productive meetings moving forward there. So thank you for that.
Timeline.
What we share with the parents is that we are not anticipating that the repairs will be completed before January 2024. So they are aware that come next fall, we still are not going to have that pool. If we can get it done sooner, great. But we are looking at January 2024.
I have a question. Was transportation of student athletes part of that conversation and getting them to other pools around the district?
We would provide transportation.
Provide transportation,
Yeah.
excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a working shuttle route, and we would just add to that route.
Okay.
I have a question about the public comments. A lot of the parents mentioned the issues at City High's pool, and they also mentioned some things going on at Union's pool. Is there a plan to upgrade all of the pools so that they are working properly? I know they were saying something about time pads and electricity, water, all of the things that were, going on at the other two pools that were keeping them from fully functioning. Is there a plan to improve the pools at City and Union as well?
Yes. Yes. They did mention that during the meeting on the 24th. And we are going to have another follow-up with them to begin to identify what are the easier to achieve type of repairs, and we will handle those. When it comes to the overall pool work, I think that may be part of the facilities master plan that may be happening later on.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question from Ms. Wade. With knowing that there are some electrical and cleanliness, because that was one of the major things that kept popping up about City High's pool, what is being done to address that, and how long will it take for those other options, GRCC and Calvin College, to be considered a viable option to switch them over? Like, what is that time frame as well?
So we already have a relationship and an agreement with GRCC. So we've been in their pool all, this year already. So it's just a matter of amending that, adding more dates to that. Like I said, we've done things at Kelvin College, amending that, adding more dates to that. And then, like I said, we're looking for a new partnership that would be a fourth option for us.
Second part of the question, though, about the cleanliness of the pool.
Yeah, yes. Interestingly enough, at this meeting, the parents actually said the opposite about the cleanliness of the pool, especially the water. At City High, they actually congratulated our team for doing a great job at keeping it that way. Now, the other things that they mentioned, like some of the outlets and the starting blocks that are loose, our maintenance team is already developing a plan to start working on those right away.
I actually have a question about the overall facilities plan with regards to some of the other concerns at Ottawa Hills. I know some of those parents may not have the ability to come and express their desire to have those upgrades. I know there was issues with the practice field and the track and a few other things, and I'm wondering where we might be with those things. So are we providing those students and those families at Ottawa an update with regards to those issues?
What we're doing, President Williams, is we've asked Operation to work with athletics and do a comprehensive study and look at all of the practice fields, pools, and other areas that we have scholar engagement, and then come up with a comprehensive list and prioritize those lists and connecting that to the facilities master plan in hopes that as we move forward, we can address many of those needs.
And another avenue of support that we're working on, as well as a capital campaign with the foundation. And so in that campaign, a lot of those areas that you identified are identified in that campaign for upgrades or improvement.
I know the pool was as well, so I'm just wondering how we're prioritizing the overall needs versus the needs that came up with regards to the pool. I understand that anytime that there is a impact that will affect our young people and our scholars used to be able to use the facilities is a concern. So I'm wondering how are we prioritizing that over some of the other needs as well.
The priority is to get everything up and usable so that we don't have padlocked pools or any other locations. So we need to, and Alex and his team is doing that needs assessment to make sure that those areas are functional, realizing we do need to have some upgrades to them, but we want them to be safe and operational for our students in all sectors of the community.
One last question on the pool. I know at the meeting I was there, and I know you laid out 3 options of consideration. I'm just curious, are we settled on looking to do the sleeve option? I know another option was just redigging it up and replacing the whole thing, and there was a third option. I'm just curious, are we settled on going with what you just offered earlier?
Well, we're still trying to get more information on the other option is pipe bursting. That's what it is. It's quite an interesting process where they actually forced a new pipe right inside the existing pipe, so it kind of breaks away the existing pipe. And that process eliminates the need for us to have to cut the concrete and do extensive demolition. We have found just 2 companies in the area that would do it, but both of them have declined. The other companies that we have found are in the east side of the state, and they have no, I guess they don't want to come to this side of the state. They have enough work as it is. So we may be forced to not do that option because we can't find locally someone to do it.
We also, though, have talked about expanding the pool, I don't even know what you call them, the pool companies' reach, or looking at some companies out of the state, out of state.
Correct. Yeah, we reached to a company in Minnesota. Was it Wisconsin? And they're engineers, and we will continue to talk to them to see if that's something that they can do to help us. We did reach out also to some local architecture firms and got a referral to a couple companies. We have calls into them. We're waiting to hear back from them.
One question about Union Pool. As far as we know, and as far as the parents at that meeting, I don't know if they use the Union Pool, because I know lots of schools use the Union Pool. But as far as we are concerned, the Union Pool is up and functional and clean water and all those good things.
Correct.
Do you know what the issue was when they said they walked in a, I keep wanting to call it Creston, city's pool, and it was half empty?
Yeah. Yes, we ended up losing power. And there is a safe switch, fail switch with a pump that begins to empty the swimming pool. So once the power was restored, we just put the water back in. So we were down for 2 days.
My last question is, you said before January 2024, was that the same time frame if we went with the piping sleeve?
Probably not. That may be a little bit faster. So we're still researching our options on that.
Thank you.
I'll try to have more information on the next update.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a comment. I'm happy to hear, though, that the pool is clean. I do remember distinctively them stating that they were upset with the pool not being clean at City, and quite a few parents said that. So to hear you all report back that it is, you heard, well, the parents now stated something otherwise, and that is refreshing to hear. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Not to take you off track, but will you explain just very quickly about how you have to test? Is it the pH level, or there's something that you have to test with the pool on a regular basis?
Yeah, there are several chemicals and pH levels that we do testing, I believe is daily, and our custodians actually maintain that. They put in the chemicals that need to be added to keep the balance. Part of the upgrades that we're looking at is we're actually looking to see if we can install an automated system that will do that for us on the daily basis. So that's part of that possible $500,000 that we're looking at investing here, is to just do that upgrade and not just keep doing it the old way. Oh, great questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson doesn't get to leave, but we're going to invite
Yeah,
Mr.
and finally, we're going to have Mr. Philip Green, who is our Director of Food Services, join us. And he's done a comprehensive review of some of our food service programs. And he'll share some of the findings that he has as we look for opportunities for growth in our food service arena.
Good evening, President Williams, Dr. Roby, distinguished board members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and share some of our findings. You can see the presentation that's up there now. Basically, when I put this together, I wanted to concentrate on some of the comments, concerns, and issues and opportunities that were just discussed at the last board meeting when we had some of the open comments regarding food service. So, let me get here. Okay, great. First of all, we had the opportunity to visit a number of different districts over the last month and a half or so, to discuss with them some of the best practices that were happening in their district regarding food service. We had the opportunity to visit elementary, middle, and high schools in each one of those districts, and I'd like to publicly thank the food service directors in those districts for being very hospitable during our visits. One of the things we learned was, again, we realized we have some growth areas that we need to do as a food service department. We also saw some great ideas and some great activity that they had or were doing in their districts that we are evaluating right now to see if that is functional in some of our schools. So it was a very good visit, and we gained a lot of information from them. One of the things I wanted to just briefly go over was the guidelines of what we have to, as a food service department, the guidelines we have to follow when we're putting the menus together. And you can see calories, sodium levels, saturated fat levels, and that varies from K-5, 6, 8, and then high school. Okay, so all the sodium levels are different, calorie limits are different. So all of that has to go into the menu planning when we're putting the menu together. Some of the constants on there are fruits and vegetables, which those are mandatory for every meal. Fruit could be different, but there must be a fruit and a vegetable on those menus for each scheduled day. One thing I did want to point out, because some districts don't do what we do, we have maintained utilizing whole grains for the past 10 to 12 years. We have not opted out with a waiver to go with processed white bread. So we have gone with the whole grain for quite some time. There was also a question regarding scratch cooking. Currently, we have our cheese sauce, broccoli soup, rice soup, and a number of different items that we do have as scratch cooking. We have outsourced that to Onion Crock. Onion Crock specializes in those, doing the scratch cooking for us. So those are prepared using recipes that were developed by the supervisor at Grand Rapids Public School Nutrition Services. So those are our recipes, but they're preparing it for us. So when it comes to us, we can ship it right out to the schools. Since 2023, we've added the following items that you see on the board there to our menus. One of the things coming out of the pandemic, we were using a lot of packaged items because that's basically what the manufacturers were making, packaged pizza, packaged whatever. We've gotten away from that, and we've added a lot more different items to the menu, as you can see up there, trying to give a much more of a variety. One of the things we've done also, when we were in the pandemic and coming out of it, we were on what we call a 2-week cycle menu. That means every 2 weeks you were going to see the same item. Due to procurement items, issues, and availability of items. Now we're on a 4-week cycle menu. So you should not see that same item for at least 4 weeks, that's one of the things we heard from the students is that they were seeing the items too often. So now the 4-week cycle menu will eliminate some of that. 10 cents a meal. We've been researching that more and more. I was actually on a conference or training actually, I think 2 weeks ago. We had a conference call. I said conference call, a Zoom meeting. Conference call, a Zoom meeting to go over some of the details. So we're still researching that, but we're also waiting for the official application to come out. That has not come out yet. But one of the comments I put up there, fresh fruits and vegetables, we serve those every day. That is a MDE requirement that fruits and vegetables be available on a daily basis. That picture actually right there, that line, very proud of that line. That is the food service line at Southwest Middle School, High School. Which she does a very good job over there. Plan of action. One of the things I saw when I was in one of the school districts was some different chicken items. Some of the best usage items that we have within the districts are chicken tenders, chicken nuggets, the drumstick. Well, what I saw at one of the other school districts what's called an 8-cut chicken. So it provides more, it has a breast, it has a thigh, it has a wing, it has a drumstick. So it has more variety of the chicken items other than what we're doing right now, which is the drumstick. So we're in the process of trying to find a wholesaler that actually has that particular item. Okay. Another quick thing, if you see that quick, the sub. We're trying to figure out how can we incorporate more subs or a sub line at our school. We saw that at pretty much every school. We're doing subs right now. We have some areas that we can improve because they're not looking like that. Those are basically looking like Subway sandwiches. So where we can add some more banana peppers and those type of things to it. And that again depends on the space within the school cafeteria area, whether we do pre-made subs or whether we have an actual line designated for the subs. Another thing we found was the parfaits are very popular, and we're doing that in most of our high schools right now. But parfaits were a big selling item at the schools that we visited. We've also developed some vegetarian items, And we're developing more and more breakfast sandwiches that we are actually manufacturing at our production kitchen at the Nutrition Center. So we're looking at some different items to try to get a variety out there for the students. There was also a question regarding what is food service spend money on. Some of our capital expenditures, of course, food, which is the biggest expense there. Cafeteria table, ovens, coolers. One of our wish lists is to get another sandwich wrapping machine. We had one, but it doesn't wrap properly. It makes the sandwiches look a lot better when that machine actually wraps it. And one of our biggest expenditures since COVID has been equipment repairs and maintenance. And part of the problem was for a year or so, that equipment sat dormant and was not being utilized. So when we started it back up, repairs and maintenance had to be done on it. Just a quick look at our vendors and suppliers. Gordon Food Service is our biggest supplier, but we have a number of other ones listed up there. When it says direct behind it, that means we are actually ordering product direct from the manufacturer. It does not go to a wholesaler or a supplier. It comes directly to our warehouse. And for Gordon Foods, our high schools and middle schools actually order directly from Gordon Food Service. So their orders come directly from Gordon. All of the food, products, plates for the elementary come from the Nutrition Center on our trucks that go out daily. Stakeholder engagement. First of all, I'd like to thank the students who were there at the Superintendent's Advisory Board. I thought that was a great meeting. I thought that they felt freely to give feedback, which I thought was very good. Because we understand that we have room for continuous improvement with the department, and we appreciate the feedback that you as students provided to us. So thank you for that. But again, we did the Student Advisory Board. We're looking at doing surveys. We're doing taste testing. Now we're out meeting. We're trying to set up appointments, meetings with different student organizations at the various schools, because we want direct feedback from those student organizations of what are we doing good, what do we need to improve on, and then trying to develop a plan to see whether that will work in their particular schools. As well, because one of the items I looked at was we need to add some sort of pizza station somewhere on the serving line at the schools. So we're trying to figure out where does that space come from, where does the electrical come from, how do we get that set up? I also, and they accepted, a visit to the Nutrition Center. I'd like the Advisory Board to come to the Nutrition Center, take a look at what we do daily, the shipments coming in, how we put the orders together, how we ship it out to the schools. So I did invite them to come out and give them a tour. Real quickly, I wanted to show this. This is basically showing that this is looking at data from, but that data is July through December, showing you the breakfast results. We're at basically 100% even, 21 versus 22 on breakfast. We're slightly behind on lunch. And as a total, we're at roughly 99% of prior year, what we did in 2021 for what we're doing in 2022. As of right now, we've served about 1.3 million meals, breakfast and lunch, so far this year. Last year, we served 3.1 million total meals between breakfast and lunch. So I guess now I'd like to open it up to any questions.
I have several.
Yes.
For the 10 cents a meal grant, you do have to, I believe, I'm almost positive, you have to purchase from Michigan Farms. Do we currently have any vendors that our fruits and vegetables come straight from Michigan Farms?
Yes, and I have a report here, which would take too long to go over, but Gordon Foods has pulled a report for me already to show me how many items that we're purchasing from Michigan Farms, and there's a couple ways to look at it. Was it produced in Michigan, or was it actually grown in Michigan? So there's a difference between the two. So I can get that information from them pretty much anytime.
Okay.
And the main item that we have, to be honest with you, is our apples. Apples is the #1 item that we use from Michigan.
Yeah, okay. Salad bars.
Yes.
I know before COVID, a lot of schools had salad bars. And then some have brought them back, some have not. So is that the kitchen staff's decision whether they bring the salad bars back? How do we determine who gets their salad bars back in the schools?
No, we're working with them. For instance, Burton should have just started up this week again with their salad bar. There's a couple things you have to look at. Number one is, are we treating the salad bar as part of the meal? If it's part of the meal, it has to be in the line, and the students have to take it prior to us counting it as a meal. If we're using it as a secondary to the meals, we can have that salad bar out in the cafeteria where the children actually eat. So it all depends. But no, we're bringing those back.
Okay.
Yes. And one of the things we're doing also, not to drag this on, but we're also making more and more pre-made salads that high schools, well, all the schools, they can order those on their regular orders and have those pre-made salads available to the students.
And then also, when I was in high school, we had options like different things going on all over the cafeteria where you got your regular lunch line. We had our fried food. I don't think y'all doing that no more, but like we could get like chips and cheese. And then we also were able to purchase like Blimpie subs or personal pizzas from one of the pizza places. Is that just like not a thing anymore, like in nutrition or?
Well, a lot of that is pretty much not a thing anymore just because of the guidelines with the, with the components of those meals.
Okay. I was just wondering.
So I have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
No, I'm done.
Okay. You mentioned earlier, and this is a little bit in conjunction with what Ms. Wade stated about the diagram there had a meal count. What counts as a meal count? Is that a full meal, or is that one
Yes.
item in that counts as towards that meal count? I'm just trying to understand how you're distinguishing.
No, we have, when we count a meal, it has to have a certain amount of components on that tray. So fruits and vegetables are really not an option. The entree is really not an option. But, like at the high schools or whatever, we have different items that they can select as a different entree. It just has to have those set amount of components before we can count it as a reimbursable meal from the state.
Thank you. And then I'm happy to see that there are some vegetarian options that you are going to be gearing up. One thing that I noticed, which has more of modern medical technology, we are now discovering more people that have gluten issues. And so will there be gluten-free options for students who have gluten problems?
We do have some, we call them munchers. They're in a pack, plastic container. It has different components in there. If it's gluten-free, there's a sticker on it that actually says gluten-free.
And with the 2 to 4, you said you went from 2 weeks from the cycle of food being repeated to 4 weeks. Is that already something that is happening, or you're planning on implementing?
No, that's already done. That's done.
Okay, a question about the kitchens. How many kitchens in our district actually allow for our cooks to cook the food? If they wanted to cook food, like.
Well, are you talking cooking or are you talking
Cooking.
scratch cooking?
Yeah, scratch cooking.
Well, how do you define scratch cooking?
I mean, like if you, so I went to Westwood and they ordered greens and served greens, and it was because they have a kitchen and they have facilities to be able to cook the food. So like, how many kitchens are have the facilities to actually cook food rather than just heat up food that's coming from food service?
Well, most of it is, to be honest with you, is heated up. I mean, that drumstick is already done. We're not cooking raw chicken. We're not doing that. The mac and cheese, we get from a company called JTM. It comes with the noodles, with the cheese. So it's actually, all that has to be combined, and then it has to be heated up.
I guess what I'm asking is how, because I know I was told that the, I want to call them kitchen staff. What's the correct? Okay, kitchen staff. Okay, kitchen staff are able to have some options and order things to serve, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so but their options are limited because some of them don't have the facilities to prepare in their kitchen. Get what I'm saying?
Any middle school or high school has the equipment to do that.
But just as the elementary schools then. So
Some do, some don't, but a lot of them are, because of space within the kitchen, they can't put a double stack oven or have, like the union has three double stack ovens side by side, so.
okay. So yeah. So my question was like, how many schools are able to actually?
Let
So
us
it's
get that
pretty much
answer.
their
What's a
high school.
full-service kitchen versus a prep kitchen for you, and get back to you on that one.
Thank you. I didn't know the right terms. Full service versus prep.
Yeah.
And I would just admonish my colleagues to kind of let's glance at each other before we jump back in, because we don't want to step over each other, I'll say. Ms. Milton.
Just thinking about the comment about sandwich stations and food and salad bars. I think I'm hearing you say that some schools don't have space for that, but I think we decide what's the base expectation for each school. And it seems really clear that our kids are saying they really want choice. So even those prepackaged salads, some of those munchers, I think they're called,
Yep.
some of those, it is what we're clearly hearing needs to be adjusted and to be, like where there are salad stations, where there are spaces to build a sub. So what would be holding us back from having that in all buildings, like immediately?
Well, to be honest with you, elementary school, the space is an issue because sometimes we are serving in the gym. We're not serving, with a serving line.
Yeah.
If you go to a middle school or high school, you have a physical serving line that runs all the way across. So
Yeah, I just know that all the schools that I've been in, and I've been in a lot of them, it's, you just wheel it out. So I know they're on wheels and they're in the kitchen at part of the day and out there.
Right.
So it seems pretty immediate that we could have that happen. What am I missing?
Oh, the salads and that? Oh, they can order, the cooks can order the salads now.
Okay, so is that something that we could respond to the students in? They would like some choice in how they build their food and have the vegetables and fruit. I know you went to Jenison and they have a situation where their salad bars are in the line, so they're just right before
Right.
So it's still part of what is required for the
Correct.
state.
Correct.
So could we do that?
We can check that out. It depends on the layout.
I guess I'm wondering why not.
It depends on the layout of the
Yeah.
actual cafeteria.
Okay. So the only thing that would maybe hold us back would be like the physicality of where it goes.
Right, but we can get around that by having the pre-made salads.
Yeah.
We make a different salad every day, and we just need the cooks to order them and get them available to the students.
It's just that what I'm hearing clearly is that the pre-made salads are not what the kids are wanting. I know there's dairy issues with some of them and gluten issues with some kids, and those have both on it. And with the plastic wrap on it, the moisture kind of just makes it not very appetizing.
Those are not wrapped. They're not wrapped. They're
Okay.
in a plastic container, but they're not wrapped.
Okay.
They are freshly made every day, and there are some that just have salad with no meat. Some have meat, some have
Yeah.
eggs, and some don't. They're just a plain salad. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just hearing really clearly from kids that they want some choice. So I was thinking that might be a quick win if we're able to do that.
Well, again, I appreciate that point because one of the things we're trying to do is increase the salads, increase the parfaits,
Yeah.
because the parfaits that are in the school, they're gone.
Every
morning
time
they're
they have
gone.
choice over it,
Yes.
I think that will help.
Appreciate it.
Can I do a follow-up to?
Yes.
Oh, let's let Mr. Rodriguez go.
Well, so I just had a few questions about, so I'm lactose intolerant. And it's sometimes it's a struggle. I'm thankful for oat milk nowadays, right? But one thing I wanted to ask is when we have main entrees that do have dairy, such as pizza, burgers, mac and cheese, do we offer non-dairy options alongside those entrees, or what are some of the non-dairy options that we got going in our lunches?
It's much easier to do that with high schoolers who come through the line. They know they're lactose intolerant. They know what they can take off the line. For the elementary students, we have that information in the database regarding which kids are lactose intolerant or whatever. They may have a different allergy. For some of those students that we know of, we can prepare them a sack lunch. We can prepare them something totally different if that main entree item, and it's really the main entree item that's the issue with most of them.
Right.
If they're lactose intolerant, they're not going to take the milk. So we can prepare a separate meal for them.
And so I know this was an issue when I was at Alger Middle School. So we offer milk as an option for every meal. And while I understand we do have, water fountains, some kids may not bring a water bottle. Is there any chance, or have you looked into the possibility of having these small water bottles at lunch, in lunch lines to offer, in lieu of the milk cartons?
Well, first of all, milk is not required. It's not required that they take the milk. They don't have to take the milk. MDE says that if the child has access to a water fountain, we don't need to provide water in the cafeteria. Now, what we could do, if the kids wanted the water, we could put we've done this in the past where you have almost like a tea dispenser, but it has water in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we found out one thing was when all those bottles were being taken around the school and so
Yeah.
forth and so on, that caused an issue also.
Okay, thank you.
Steven, do you have?
Thank you, President Williams. This is a twofold question, and for a point of clarity for me.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that the schools have the ability to order their own food in regards to from Gordon Foods, in a sense. They can order their own meal. So I guess my question is, does each school have the ability to order their own, I guess, themed lunches? And I'm using that in context to when the students and the scholars came up, they started mentioning having culturally specific meals. And a lot of our schools are in certain neighborhoods that are culturally enriched. And so I guess, how is that being embedded into the food services? And then also, are we monitoring the different types of food options that are going to specific schools, or are they all just pretty much getting the same options collectively?
Well, they're pretty much given the same option, but what I didn't put up there you had burritos, tacos. I didn't put every item, because that's what we've been very intentional about, trying to put some different ethnic type items, on the menus. And trying to make sure that it's not, again, the 4-recycle menu where you're not getting it every week or two.
Okay.
I don't know if tacos or burritos will be culturally relevant options necessarily. I just wanted to mention that. Want a clarification?
So my question is, a lot of questions about it. How soon can our scholars anticipate seeing a change? Because what I did hear was presentation was an issue, and they thought some of the food quality was poor. So where are we with those things, and what are we looking ahead to with regards to possible changes?
Well, we're looking at a couple of things. One, we've looked at changing the actual plates that we have to, that the food is served on, make it look more appealing than the styrofoam plates that we currently have. Number two, we've been working with our staff to ensure that they are placing the food on the plates properly so that it is appealing. Again, as far as new items, we see new items every month. Pretty much all the sales reps come in, present us with new items. So again, we're trying to cycle through as many new items as we can, to give them a variety.
Are we doing a quality check around that? So I know that there might be vendors bringing in new food. Are we double checking to make sure that it's being served at the way it was presented? Because that could be, sometimes if I go to this McDonald's and they take my fries at $2.50 versus I go and it says that the recommended cook time is $2.45, that changes the way those fries feel when I go to consume them. So I'm wondering about that. Are we doing those type of quality checks to make sure that the product that we're giving is
Yeah,
what
that was absolutely one of the things that we began to look at and had conversations around presentation, first of all, right down to the aesthetic of the cafeterias themselves, so they don't look so institutionalized. We wanted to make them look more appealing. When you got to training, that's a training issue, and I've had conversations with Mr. Green to ensure that his staff is properly cooking what is the recommended cook time and not shorting on cook time, because when that happens, food may not come out as aesthetically pleasing as it is. So that's one of these things we saw as we moved around. Definitely was presentation of salad bars. How were those salad bars presented? presented to our young people, our scholars, when they hit the floor. And not only that, we wanted to sample what that food tastes like and what it looks like. So we ate in those cafeterias that we visited to make sure what was taste like. And that's one of the things we're committed to doing right now is getting our staff out to actually eat in the cafeterias so that we can experience what the scholars are experiencing as well. Continue to taste test with our scholars, ongoing process, ongoing input from them. But presentation was huge in my visits. Presentation was huge for me in terms of how things looked when it hit the table and it hit the cafeteria floor. So we took that under great consideration.
Thank you. Any last questions?
Last question for you, for me. You made a statement about surveying the scholars about their food.
Yes.
Has that gone out yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're working on the questions on that to make sure we hit the key points on the survey.
Thank you.
Check with Sammy.
Sammy,
He'd be a great reference. Yeah.
Sammy have a question. I saw his hand. I'm not sure if you.
So I was just gonna say, with the survey, is that something you could possibly work with the council on? Because the last survey went out about the uniform. We kind of helped facilitated that, as we can give the student standpoint or scholar standpoint of the questions that obviously we would like to see. I know it'd be a little bit harder for the elementary, but for high school and middle school, we kind of have that aspect and can help with that.
We would
Yeah.
do that. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
One last question about one young man came and he was saying that he wanted almond milk or oat milk with his lunch. Is that even, possible for us to offer those to?
We normally don't offer different milk unless the child's family has submitted a form which shows that either
Medical
an
condition.
allergic reaction to milk or something like that, where they specifically have a doctor's report saying they need a different variation than the white or chocolate milk that we offer.
And that's a food policy with the state, correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dr. Roby?
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I'm going to invite Mr. Atkins, Mr. Steve Petros, Ms. Jackie Westover, and Ms. Bianca Ambris forward. And this is a follow-up to the social emotional learning presentation that took place 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
And there were some clarification questions that the board has asked for, so to provide, again, it's not the full dive into last presentation, but just to answer those questions that were asked before.
Thank you, Dr. Rowe.
Good evening once again. Mel Atkins. I'm Executive Director of Community Student Affairs, and I have with me on this side is Bianca Ambris and Jackie Westover, which are both two of our SEL consultants. And so today, really where we're going to focus on, on January 17th, we presented, Bianca and I presented a pretty comprehensive view on discipline data, what we're doing around social emotional learning. And there were really there was many questions, but there were really three bucket questions, I would say, bucket items that we wanted to come back and begin to have dialogue on today. And it stems from a question that stemmed around, and I know it came up at the Finance Committee too, around the curriculum. And so we're going to answer it around systemic SEL implementation. And so that's going to be the first part. And then there was another question around positive behavior interventions and supports. What does it look like in our system? And then the final question was, we're going to talk about today around teacher turnover rates, and does it have an impact on discipline or student suspensions and things of that nature. And so really those are the three bucket areas that we're going to do. And there was some sub-questions with it, but they should fall into one of those three areas. So in saying that, really our theory of action, we adopted from the CASEL model. Remember, CASEL is the Collaborative for Academic Social Emotional Learning. And we look at these four areas. The first one around building foundational support. And then the second area that around strengthening adult SEL competencies. And so we usually say competencies or skills and capacity. So if you think about that, think about professional development. And so this is a component of it. And we know teachers need something different than, say, administrative assistants or secretaries, that need something different than principals, that need something different, and so on and so on and so on. And so not having a one-size-fits-all professional learning, but tiering it for each role group or buckets of role groups is one of the things that we're working on right now. Under the focus area 3, promoting SEL for scholars, and so this is where the curriculum will fall under. And so this is a piece of it, but we talked around before around getting scholar voice, for example. We talked around the panorama scholar surveys would go into this area. Integrating the curriculum into the other academic areas is another area. But this piece is where I'm going to talk a little bit more around focus area 3 in just a second around the process we use to identify SEL curriculum. And then you see reflect on data for continuous improvement. And you think of a continuous improvement cycle that you plan, you do, you act, and you go through that kind of continuous process. Here we call it's a new kind of a state term, a MICIP process, the Michigan Integrated Continuous Improvement Process, and it's similar to what we do here. And so you plan it, you do it, and you review data. So, whoops, sorry about that. And so what we did initially is we took, we have 8 pilot schools, remember, and some of this is just a refresher because it's been a few weeks. And so we had 8 pilot schools that we worked with, and the pilot schools were, they opted in, and so that was a choice we did make. They opted into this pilot in the summer, and so they had approximately 12 hours of really professional development that our SEL consultants facilitated, and to really get a better baseline of what SEL is, what it isn't, and start working on their adult skills was the first thing. And then we came together and we identified a couple curriculums to look at through our CASEL program guide, and we made sure it was well, first of all, everything in the CASEL program guide is evidence-based. It's it's the best of the best through this structure. And so it was down to really 2 curriculums, and we looked at Second Step and we looked at Collaborative Classroom. And so what happened was the K-5, K-8 teachers really were actually 88% of the teachers that heard the presentation, that went through the materials, wanted collaborative classroom at the K-5 and K-8 level, and then the comprehensive middle schools were just the opposite. And so you just think about the structures that are a little bit different. It's really 5 or 6 classes, you have an advisory, and so it looks different at the secondary level. And so they chose Second Step. And so what you saw at the Finance Committee, for example, was the collaborative classroom come to the table. And so what that really price entailed, it wasn't just the pilot schools. We priced out all the teachers and all the classroom teachers for K-5 and K-8s. And so that's why the price was what it was. We were trying to take advantage of some extra funds while we have them to get everyone up to the curriculum that they're going to need in upcoming months or in the upcoming year is what we did. So in saying that, I know a question that came out before is who's using the curriculum? Have you talked to anyone? And so that stemmed underneath of that. There are about 15 schools in the state of Michigan that are using Collaborative Classroom. And the reason, and for transparency with those, none of the school districts, at least in Michigan, look like us. I would say that serve the same students or the same free reduced lunch rate. And one of the reasons why that is, one is the pandemic, but 2, SEL as a Michigan initiative is relatively new. In 2017, Michigan adopted some SEL competencies. They actually conferred with GRPS at the time to see if they were refined. And then the pandemic hit 2 years later, and then kind of where we're here now. So what we did is we contacted, again, Collaborative Classroom, and we got some data. And so there are 881 schools across the country that are using Collaborative Classroom. We contacted one of the leading, I would say, school systems that have used it for a number of years, and that's Oakland ISD. And so that's one, we were in touch with them. And so they went through a very similar process, but they are lifted up as one of the best. And I know they're a much larger district than us. They serve just about 35,000 students, but their demographics are very similar to ours. And so they're going through, they went through a similar process that we went through. It sounded very like, just like we've done, but they're just years ahead of us, I would say. And so that's what I have for what we did around the curriculum. But I'm gonna pass it to Jackie now to talk around PBIS.
All right, so one of the questions that we heard was, how is PBIS being implemented school-wide? And so PBIS being those positive behavior interventions and supports. To understand kind of PBIS and SEL, social emotional learning, and how they're related, I like to think of SEL as an umbrella. So social emotional learning is an umbrella that within it, there's many different supports that are helping our scholars and adults within our community to be successful in and out of school time. So when we think of that umbrella, and within it, you could say your PBIS fits within and underneath your umbrella as a way to reinforce positive behaviors. You could have your professional learning as a way to address professional growth. Curriculum could fit your academic needs. We speak about restorative practices a lot as a team as well, and so that would be a way for strategies to prevent harm and repair relationships. So thinking of all of those things underneath the social emotional learning umbrella. So we came up with 5 different ways that PBIS is really being implemented within our schools. The first one being within school-wide expectations. When you go into buildings, you might have different chants or mantras. Sometimes you see posters of like a SOAR. So maybe it's SOAR, you're being safe, you're showing ownership, being accountable, and then having respect. There are lots of different mantras within our district. Another way that PBIS is being implemented is within a behavioral flow chart. The behavioral flow chart, the goal is for teachers to use these as a guide to keep students in class and also as a use for those alternatives to suspensions. Another was the matrix expectations. Matrix expectations are a what to do, when and where in different parts of the school building. Maybe it's the classroom or the hallway or the cafeteria, and the behaviors that you should have and present in those different places. Another piece of PBIS is the tiered fidelity inventory, and that's a lot of the times called the TFI, and that's a progress monitoring tool used by building level PBIS teams. And then our scholars' favorite, I would say, and probably my favorite as well, are the monthly celebrations that are to reinforce those positive behaviors seen in our schools.
And so the last question stemmed around teacher turnover rates or retentions, and is it related to suspensions? And so the first thing, this is a very difficult question to answer. I want to say that. So I am working with the HR department to pull data, and so I don't have it today. But what it's going to show you is really probably a percentage or a rate, that the retention rate. But correlating it to, let's say, a particular day of suspension, that's I'm going to be upfront. That's going to be difficult to do, but I'm trying to get the data now. But we know, if you think about it, and this is some of the reasons why we're going through the facilities master planning process right now, is GRPS is not different than anyone else across the nation. There is a teacher shortage. And so we know that the more you have a relationship with a teacher or an advocate or an adult, the more likely you're going to do better in school, come to school. And so I don't think that's any different. I don't expect the data to be any different once we get it that says something like that. So part of it, besides the facilities master plan, how we're at least trying to tackle this is around professional development. And so we talked earlier around, remember those four areas, but one of it is around building foundational knowledge around first adult skills or adult competencies is one. And so we know, regardless if it's a first-year teacher, a fifth-year teacher, or a 25-year teacher, if you have those adult competencies, you're more than likely going to be able to build relationships and in turn be able to when we talked around the umbrella, underneath the umbrella, if something happens, because things happened, do you have the skills to, let's say, have a restorative circle instead of a suspension and things of that nature? So it's one of our strategies that we're trying to do. And so in turn, really what it is really the four things that we said earlier. It's this. It's really this is what we're trying to tackle it with the facilities master plan. There's going to be some adjustments along the way. There is a national teacher shortage, but the data is coming. So this one is still to be D, but I just want to temper the expectations a little bit with this because this is going to be a very difficult one to correlate. So open it up for questions.
I was actually just curious, that question about teacher turnover being related to suspension. I mean, I get the curiosity of it. I guess I'm curious I get the curiosity of it in general, but I guess what I'm wondering is, I don't know how that question came to bear, but I'm having a hard time seeing how the response to that may really inform some practice on the part of us as a district.
Yeah, so we want to respect the question and just bring it back to someone, I don't remember who asked it. And what we don't want to do, spend hours and hours and hours and hours, because this is a tough one. There's something that maybe not inform our next steps. And so we do believe it does make a difference if you have a full staff, if you have teachers in front of you each and every day, and you can apply it to any position that you have. That does make a difference. We just can't quantify it at this time. What we can commit to is starting with adult competencies. We're trying to adopt the curriculum, differentiate the PD, get scholar voice, all those things, and just have a cycle of data to adjust your plan along the way. With those steps, we think it's a way to make a difference. I don't know if I mentioned, I do apologize, because before, one of the questions, because we talk around a lot, and this is tough to hear sometimes, is this doesn't happen overnight, and it takes around 3 to 5 years to see incremental growth. Incremental. And so what can we see now, or is really a question I know that happened before. And so let me get back to my notes. And then, so what we can see now stems around, one is an increased adult competencies. And we're going to measure that through professional learning exit surveys. Improved school climate is one that we can measure through our panorama surveys that we're going to take twice a year. The scholars are going to take that again in March, and they took it in, I believe, October or November the first time. And then increased positive feelings too. Part of being one to come to school. So that's another area through the panorama surveys that we can commit to, those three areas. The two are school climate and positive feelings are through the panorama SEL surveys. And then adult competencies, self-reported, but it's going to be through the professional learning opportunities that are given. And so I want to at least put that on the table because I know we can't wait to see some progress. I forgot to mention that earlier.
I do have a question. I think maybe, I know that this is sort of a thing that we're going to do and incorporate with all the kids and all the subjects and so on. I'm just wondering, what about individual kids who are in the building and who are struggling and, are not the type that'll go to their teacher? I worry about those kids, that slip through the cracks. And how do we deal with that?
Can you talk a little bit about basically a multi-tiered system of support? Because that's in essence what you just described.
Yep.
You have building level kind of goals and climate things that you do, and then you have more directed, and then as it gets more to very individual needs, what is the structure and system that's built in there? So if you can talk about your MTS system.
I'll take it.
Go ahead.
So with the tiered system that you're talking about, it's an 85, 15, 5. If you can imagine like a triangle. So the bottom level is that tier 1 school-wide stuff. And so all the kids participate in that. And those who aren't making adequate progress actually go into the next tier, which is that kind of moderate interventions, if you will, which would be one-on-ones with a youth advocate or peer-to-peer kind of things. And those who are making adequate progress, they're going to that 5%, which is the top of the tier, which is that more intense, where they might have to get a referral to KSSN or, outsourced, like Network 180, something like
right.
that. So to answer your question, our kids who are just maybe like not wanting to volunteer kind of fall in that 15%, where the schools are designed, which most of them have advocates to provide those one-on-one services, so we can get them back down to that first level of the tier.
And all the schools do have people who can
Most do, yes.
individually deal with kids?
Yeah, and so the example was given, was youth advocates. But one thing we're trying to do is, regardless if you have that resource or not, there's someone at the building level, a role group that has been trained and can support you in your needs.
This isn't really high school, it's elementary?
No, this is K-12.
K-12. Oh, it is 12, okay.
Just a quick follow-up question about that. So students or scholars that are in that 5%, is there, how do we facilitate the communication with the parents with regards to the persistence of issues and making sure that they can support the work that's going to be done in school? Because if they're at that level, clearly that relationship between parent and school is going to be really necessary to facilitate a change.
Oh, I totally agree. And so there is direct communication before you get to a tier 3. Tier 1, we want everyone to be aware. And some of it we talked about with PBIS, with monthly celebrations, but especially if you get to tier 2, you're going to start getting more and more parent communication, and definitely with tier 3.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go back to our original questions around the January 17th presentation, because I didn't see this come up in the questions, which originally I asked, in a lot of the data that you provided from the middle to high school, they talked about insubordination and disruptive behavior. And I recall asking, does each school get to define what that means, or is there a standard practice in regards to how one is defining respect/disrespect or insubordination/disruptive behavior? Does each individual school get to self-identify what that threshold, what those measures are, or is that a system-wide?
And so I do apologize if I missed that question, and so it definitely wasn't intentional.
No.
And so there is a district definition of what all those are. How people interpret it at the building level is something hard to monitor, I would say. And so there's a GRPS definition of each and every one of them. How it's inputted and entered, that one's hard to say. We definitely have people. I'm one of them that read each and every I would say input log that goes in every day. And there is training, if we see some discrepancies, and it really does what you're doing here, it leads to just more questions and saying, maybe can you tell me more about X? And then some of this, when we talked around before, I mentioned today around the Dean PLCs. And so the Dean PLCs, professional learning communities, are something new that started in October. But this is one of the things that they've been focusing on is some commonality. So it doesn't matter if you're at school A or school B, there is some consistency.
Ms. Milton?
Yeah. Well, thank you, first of all, for looking for curriculum. I know we've been doing PBIS for a long time, statewide, I'm sure even bigger than that. And we know that it has gotten us certain things, but there's just, when we look at the data around suspensions, it's not meeting all the needs. So I appreciate looking for curriculum. Our job for sure is to help implement not implement, but to purchase and put in place curriculum in coordination with the leaders, with staff, and with families. So what I see here is fantastic information, looks well aligned. I hear you as a leader speaking, who I trust. I still, though, I'm looking for information from staff and from families about, is this what they need? Great curriculums abound. Whether or not staff is behind it is what makes the impact, for students. So that's really what I would need before
following through with any sort of curriculum
Yep.
decision.
So what I can only say is, and so remember there was 8 schools. And so we went through with the 8 schools, 7 of the 8 were K-5 or K-8 schools. And so 88% of the teachers of those pilot schools picked the curriculum that was in front of you.
Did you say a percent of them?
88% of them.
We brought all of the teachers together into a room at GRPS University. We invited them. We also invited them via Zoom as well. And we had our 2 representatives from both of those companies present for them. So it wasn't us presenting for them, it was them, and they were able to ask the questions themselves directly as well. And then afterwards, if there were questions there were follow-up questions, we took those down and brought them back to the representatives and shared them back with them. And then we gave a form for them to fill out and give us their feedback on which curriculum they thought would be a better fit. And they provided with us tons of feedback. So it was not something that we chose, it was the teachers themselves.
And then I want to add too, so you think about the middle school pilot, and that's where I would say the highest percentage of suspensions are currently happening. Burton Middle is our only pilot school. So what we did initially, is we called all the comprehensive middle schools together. And so regardless if it was a pilot or not, if you were a comprehensive middle school, we invited the teachers from there. And then they had another session, and they went through the same process. And 90% of the comprehensive middle school teachers picked second step. And so I do stand by getting teacher voice.
Great. But the instructional council, just to clarify, has not been involved, is that correct? But the
Incorrect.
teachers,
Present to them.
Okay.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No, they have. Let me be clear. And so the team did go to instructional council.
So I think when I asked you that question, it was going to be for everybody. It's a pilot program for now, right?
Well, we are stepping out of the pilot phase. And so what we did this year is pilot the Willing. And next year we begin our multi-implementation plan of going through everyone.
And I think also, did you mention with regards to our ESSER dollars, that is why we are seeking the full funding?
Part of the reason why is, and we could have purchased for just the 7 K-5, K-8 schools, but we want to purchase for everyone. And so we know we need to get this started. Our data is saying you need to do it now. And so there's not time to waste, and we're using ESSER funds while we have them to make this purchase.
Okay.
And the training for it as well.
Yep.
And that we know it is anticipated that those dollars will not be extended. So if we don't use it, we do lose it as well?
Correct.
Okay.
I had a question. I think the last time I asked, are teachers the ones, and let me just ask again for clarification, are teachers the ones, or the main staff that are going to be implementing this curriculum?
This is correct.
Okay. I just wanted to know that before I ask my second question. But having worked in GRPS, I know that it takes someone who wants to do the work, who wants to implement this to fidelity. Even PBIS, that doesn't really cost us anything, is not implemented to fidelity. And I just worry, no disrespect to our staff, I just worry that they're stretched too thin to add this to their plate. And so I'm asking, have we looked at other support staff to implement this curriculum or lessons? Because I don't think that we should be adding this curriculum to teachers' plates.
And so definitely, thank you for that comment. Well, we've done up until this point, and you can think of, if you like summer school, for example, we've had support staff implement the curriculum for 2 or 3 years now, especially second step. But we know in order to make this happen, there's a standalone piece, but you have to integrate it into ELA, math, the arts, everything that you do, you have to integrate it. So there's a component of integration, if you think of, that happens with support staff, but you have to start in the classroom. And so if we're going to get serious and really do this, it can't be another thing. And so I understand exactly what you're saying. And so it's really, our work, the system's work, to make sure it's not one more thing. It's something that you can say, where have this been kind of my whole teaching career? If you think around just the skills or competencies that go with it, it just goes hand in hand. There's no other. At least I believe, and I think the research backs it up. You're not going to be able to fully implement a SEL curriculum from the outside in. You got to do it from the inside out.
And so I do want to remind our board, though, because it seems as though we are crossing over into outside of our governance role when we get into some of this, because it's for Dr. Roby and her staff to operationalize and make those actual decisions. We have a higher view up here, and we are about the mission and the vision and the goals. And so it looks as though we're kind of getting into the action and how it's implemented and those things. And so that is not our work. And I really want us to remember that as a forefront. We're up here and she is in the trenches with her staff, and they actually get to make those decisions with regards to implementation, what those program ideas are, how it would be put to fidelity. That is her staff's responsibility, and that comes from Superintendent Roby. And ours is about the goals, the vision, and we have to remember we are in a governance role, and I don't want us to really lose sight of that, because if we do, then we're treading in difficult waters, and I don't want us to be one of those boards who have to answer to outside authorities because we are overstepping where we should be, if that makes sense. So I'll ask if there are any other questions particular with regards to this program versus how her staff will implement it and how they will get it done, because we are here to approve it in our budget, whether or not we want to fund it for her staff to implement it or not.
I just got a question about the current slide. Do we do surveys as staff leave the district? And are those surveys able to answer, maybe kind of answer this question at all?
So part of when staff leave the district, everyone is given an opportunity to do an exit survey or to list the reasons why they might be leaving, another opportunity, family moving, those kind of things. And people are invited to do exit surveys. Some people in their resignation might just state why they're leaving, and sometimes we'll follow up based on what that said. But related to this particular program around SEL, there's not necessarily a direct correlation, unless there could be a correlation where someone would say, and I'm making something off the top of my head, so I just want to make sure people understand that I don't have enough support and the students are doing blah, blah, blah. And then that would be something that we would follow up on. But no, this specifically to this SEL program, it's not related to hiring or staff leaving.
Thank you.
Anyone else? So if I could have a point of privilege, we're going to have a 5-minute break, please. We'll be back. Thank you.
You barely do. Thank you.
No.
People went up and not telling you. You have a
Somebody give it to you.
I got you supposed to.
That's who's about to.
I want you to stretch my legs for one. Oh, sorry.
And I'm not replying.
What's on the page?
On
Oh, do you need me?
GRPS?
Sure.
Yeah, just tell us to take it down until you get it.
Question. I actually signed up for public comment to actually give public comment on the agenda, and they didn't call me.
District, whatever.
The person that was like, oh, you guys.
Yeah,
If you actually look at my comment card,
I don't think it's even listed on where it goes in there. It just literally.
So yeah, I don't know how folks got you on.
Why is there no profile?
I gave it to her. I gave it to her when I first filled it out. I was just saying that the first public comment where they actually give you public comment to speak on the agenda item.
We're getting into 9 o'clock. It's probably 9.
It's one of my 6 minutes.
I know, I noticed it's actually really long. So.
It's been incredibly long. Your mom
Because my dad was waiting until home. But is it not open like in like 5 more minutes? It's not.
It's okay. If you need to leave, it's okay.
It is?
It is, absolutely. This is above and beyond. It's above and beyond. That's why this is why I just know that you guys can go home. It's okay.
Okay, yeah, that's just where I should go. He doesn't.
Yeah, he's probably worried about you. Yeah, I would go home. If I had the opportunity, I would go home. Yeah, this is above and beyond. You have a good night. We'll get to see you again. Back to see, okay? Next week, I should say. Yeah, 2 weeks. But we're here on Tuesday. Yeah. You want me to walk you out? That sounds like yeah, let me go with you and your dad. Okay, grab your stuff. I'll let them know it is okay. Give me a walk this to you. I'll be right back. Yes, all right, sweetheart.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing all right.
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you again too. We didn't really get to connect because you left, but I had some ideas I wanted to run by you.
Okay.
So I guess I'll try to find like another capacity to talk to you about it.
Yeah. Tonight's been long.
It's definitely been a long meeting. It's cool.
Yeah.
I got patience. A lot of patience.
So,
Ross, you never got back with me.
It's not the problem.
The first time somebody did that. Won't be the last. Yep.
Yeah. There's time in advance. Yes, yeah. Yeah. So he has time to like.
You're waiting on President Williams.
I did just want to say some comments.
What is? We got some of those questions I was answering.
I'll fill out 2 cards.
Yeah.
My card does show that I signed 1 card.
And what was the first one for?
I'll take my 6. Okay. I'm just trying to get this.
can you run me our email addresses from
Email, GRPS. It's going really good. Like,
I just looked at, I filled that out a while ago, but I also don't have nothing, they took away this profile. You said what? Look, I'm literally the only one that don't have one again. Randomly moved slide bar down. What's that little what is that little? Yeah. It's in Rogers. They close on Monday, which I didn't know.
I am. I got to admit, because I'll take 2 seconds, and I got some updates that I want to speak about that I'm doing across the state.
And that's unfortunate.
Governor, lieutenant governor.
Have to do this. I'm not going to change the agenda. Number 6 was because he signed up for an agenda item and a non-agenda item. But no, he did sign up for it.
They loved it though.
You got it on. Yeah, because I think you got all. Oh, sorry.
That's because I'm positive. I turned it in.
No, I turned mine in way before y'all. Because she sent out that form, and she said I was like, on mine?
Yeah, she didn't think that.
Okay, so
Because I didn't realize I didn't have a profile until now. It's like not a I'm the only one. That
I just turned it in, like, probably the beginning of last month.
I owe you something.
Are you cool?
I have to talk to her. I haven't even had a chance to talk to her.
Don't forget our mics though, like you say.
We are ready to resume. All righty. Brings us back to order. Thank you all in the audience for being with us as we take care of nature. So we have some action items on our agenda tonight. And the first is the approval of the Kent ISD School of Choice Resolution.
Approve the Kent ISD School of Choice Resolution.
Support.
Any questions with regards to that? Wonderful. Kathy, if you call the roll.
Okay. Ms. Belton?
Support.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Shockey?
Yes.
Mr. Wade? Ms. Wade, I'm sorry. Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. President Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, we have purchasing agenda.
Motion for approval.
Support.
Is that Reinhardt?
Correct. Any questions with regards to the purchasing agenda? All right, please call them.
Okay. Ms. Melton?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Shockey?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. President Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And then we have a purchasing agenda addendum.
Motion to approve the addendum?
Support.
That's it. Just
The addendum, yeah.
Oh. Okay, I'm ready. I move that we.
Oh, it's already been moved by Ms.
okay,
Davis
so
and
now
Mr.
we're
Ross
just.
second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't get who moved in second.
Ms. Davis and Mr. Ross.
Okay, Ms. Melton,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Eatman,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. President Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Then we have adoption of budget amendment 1 for general fund. Any questions? If not, is there support?
Motion to approve the adoption of budget amendment 1, general fund.
Support.
Reynard? Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Melton?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Shaki?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Mr. Davis? Ms.
Yes.
I've known you long enough. Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. President Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And adoption of Budget Amendment 2 for Special Revenue Fund. Is there discussion? If not, support?
Motion for approval of the adoption of Budget Amendment 1, Special Revenue Fund.
Support.
Support.
Ms. Melton?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Shaki?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. President Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And then our final action item is the adoption of Budget Amendment 1, Debt Retirement Fund. Discussion? Is there support?
Motion to approve Amendment 1 for the Debt Retirement Fund?
Support.
Who was that?
Mr. Ross?
All right, Ms. Melton?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Shaki?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. President Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Is there support for a consent agenda grouping?
Motion to approve the consent agenda grouping.
Support.
Jen supports. Was it?
Reynard.
Reynard?
I would.
All right, Ms. Melton?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Shaki?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. President Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And just a point of clarification, are we moving forward with the purchasing agenda? The tabled item for social emotional learning curriculum. Is there support?
You're looking for a motion to approve? I will make a
Correct.
motion for the purchasing of the social emotional learning curriculum.
Second.
Okay, so this is social and emotional learning,
And Ms. Davis.
and Mr. Ross and Ms. Davis.
I have a question. Are we voting now to table that item, or are we voting to
To
adopt?
purchase. To purchase the curriculum.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Melton?
Reynard.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Shaki?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. President Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries. Who did?
Was it,
Wait,
was
oh,
it
Ms.
you,
Wade?
Ari?
Okay.
Okay.
Seconded?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. And announcements. I do not have any at this time. I will share that we will, some of the work that we had planned for our retreat, we did not get to. And so we are working to get that on work sessions for us. And then we are looking to have Dr. Campbell back to continue some of that deep dive work that we do as a board. So updates will be coming out as I have more information, but look for some communication coming soon. And that is all that I have with regards to announcements. Now we have some public comment. And so my apologies to Mr. Jones. It was overlooked that he wanted to speak with regards to agenda items earlier. So we will grant him his full 6 minutes to discuss 3 for the agenda item, and he also gets 3 for his non-agenda item. He did check both.
All right, okay. Public
Mr.
comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. You'll need to state your full name Before providing your comment, we will then start the timer at the beginning of your public comment, provide you with 1 minute notice by flagging a red card indicating 1 minute remains. You will need to complete your comment time upon being notified that 3 minutes have passed. Board members do not respond to public comment. Concerns will be brought to the attention of the appropriate staff. We value your input and thank you for sharing with us.
Mr. Jones, you can come forward.
And he's going to have 6 minutes, right?
He's going to have 6 minutes.
Thank you for that, President. Appreciate that. Way to be transparent. But first of all, I'd like to talk about purchasing. As you guys know, I've been talking about esports and bringing esports to our community. Actually, I've connected with our governor, our lieutenant governor. I was invited to the party that they had at the Fox Theater, and so I was the turntest person there. I was super lit. I sweated my suit out. I was on stage. All of the politicians see how crazy I go, and it was just cool to just be myself. And I'm always authentically myself everywhere I go, and so it was just really cool to just show people like you can be yourself and still work with politicians and do good business. And I think that that's one thing that I want to show the youth is that in a world where society pretends and people want to be other people and wear masks, that the best thing you can authentically do is be yourself. I think that's the best lesson that I would love to show students and just youth and people that grow up. But I would want to talk about the purchasing because eventually I hope that we get to implement esports into our school districts. And when you guys potentially purchase these computers and get these free grant fundings to actually implement esports and purchase the computers and the equipment and everything else, those computers can actually be used for graphic design, game creation, and game development. I went to our only esports facility on the west side of the state, and there's a kid that's 15 years old that developed his own video game. And I was playing this kid's game. And this is something we can do for our students. Like, we can create those young geniuses. Like, I seen that we have an Apple school. When I created my program, Jump Ahead 03C, and I won a grant for $10,000, I had connected with a guy named Richard Reefer. He was actually the person who helped Steve Jobs advertise and market his first invention, which was the NEXT computer. Look that up. I actually know that. And I believe I'm a genius. I know I'll be a billionaire one day, but I'm a genius. And so it was just cool to see that because I believe that's just a reflection of the things I put out in the universe. I believe in universalism. I'm not religious. I respect everybody's way that they experience the world around us, but I believe in the universe and karma. And what you put into it is what you get out of it. I like to just talk about my other ventures that I was talking about. So I got to connect with the governor. I got to connect with the lieutenant governor. I got to connect with some of the largest school districts. I actually connected with the third largest school district, which is on the east side of the state. They don't have esports. I got to connect with Carrier. I got to connect with Granville. I got to actually ran into the Gerald R. Ford International Airport, and they want to build a gaming lounge. Guess who they asked to build the gaming lounge? Me, Beautiful Jones. And then I end up going to the DeVos place because I'm a part of our neighborhood organization. So I'm a committee member for the West Grand Neighborhood Organization. Eventually, I'm going to get on the board. And I was at the DeVos place, and I didn't know they had the car show. I was looking at all the exotic cars, the nice cars. I was going to the renewable, sustainable energy cars. And sometimes you just got to envision yourself in those things and having those things before you get them. I know I'll get those things. But I got to connect with Showspan, and Showspan was actually the organization that put on the car show. And one thing that they wanted to do at the car shows was implement esports into the car show where they'll have a gaming lounge or some type of lounge for the kids. Guess who they asked to do that? Mr. Jones. So the 2024 International Car Show at the DeVos place, Mr. Jones will be helping them have an esports lounge and lab there. So I'm really doing like gorgeous, beautiful things for our city. I'm a young African-American man. It's Black History Month. Like, I'll be a young Black historian. I'll look back 20 years and I'll see the great things I've done across the world. I'll be a global business leader. I'm very confident in myself. I believe in myself. A lot of people believe in me. I'm a community leader. People look up to me. And I would also like to say, make sure that you guys try to look up some sustainable, renewable energy generators for the pool so y'all ain't got, the pool halfway and stuff like that. I think that'd be pretty cool to see sustainable, renewable energy power through our entire school system. But I'll just say we can start off wherever we can get it. But I was just looking forward to implementing esports into our school district, potentially having our students be able to grow into the gaming space, become professional esports players. I have an esports competition that I'm hosting at the 4-Star Theater, April 22nd. I got the Kent County Kent County Sheriffs. I got the police department. I have a lot of organizations, some of the fancy car organizations, some of the biggest banks. I got a lot of people that want to get involved with the gaming space. And if you look, there's all type of companies, from food companies to technology companies, to gaming companies, to sports companies, to banks. They all get involved in the esports space some way, shape, or form. And so I'm just looking forward to pushing the culture forward, to moving the needle, to actually creating opportunities for our students, our underserved communities. Obviously, I'm hosting an esports competition as events in our underserved communities because it's been too long. It's the second worst city for economic development. So make sure you remember that Forbes, and I was in Forbes. So I wanted to illuminate this because I really believe that I can help change the economic status for our generations of students to come within our school district. And I work hard every single day without pretending and showing my work on all of my social platforms that I be on. LinkedIn, you can add me on LinkedIn, check out my work too. But I'm just really excited to give back to our community and chase this wholehearted passion with everything I have every day until I get it done and create the best opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. And then we have Sarah Sacksmith. Are you still here?
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Sarah Sacksmith. I'm a mom of 3. I'm gonna slide this up. It's kind of sliding. I feel like I'm back in court again. My husband and I proudly choose C.A. Frost Elementary for our children. I was an advocate for children and families before I had kids of my own. Now, as a mom of 3, I do the same. That's why I'm here today. I didn't go from a therapist to a supervisor to a program manager quickly by staying quiet or not speaking up when I worked in our community. I use my voice a lot. My apologies is it's been about 8 years since I last did public speaking, so I'm a little bit rusty. I've been a stay-at-home mom since. I hold a master's degree in social work, and I'm very familiar with a lot of barriers and challenges that our families are facing on a daily basis, pre and post-pandemic, if that's what we want to call it. I'm speaking for those who aren't able to be here, for those who simply can't speak up, and for those who don't know how. According to GRPS, the budget is 6% for transportation. Although that number seems small, supplies come in at 8%. Our provided expected transportation is not dependable, nor consistently reliable, and it's beyond unacceptable. There are too many personal situations affecting before school pickup and after drop-off for me to even begin. That would be beyond 3 minutes. I don't know who needs to be held accountable. I don't know what needs to happen within Dean or GRPS or what alternatives there are. But I can tell you what's in place right now needs to change. The responsibility of blame cannot continue to be shifted back and forth. Our teachers and staff deserve answers. Our families and scholars deserve this basic right. Our teachers and staff should not be responsible for staying past required time to meet the needs of Dean over and over. We all know our teachers do way more than expected, and they don't say anything. During the day, our staff and our teachers are disrupted frequently to address the day of bus cancellations and changes. Today, for example, 11:30. Extremely late bus notification from who? Our teachers and our principals. I got that email. Friday, same thing. This is constantly happening, and I'm just referring to C.A. Frost School. I know it's happening district-wide. So our teachers are being pulled away from instruction time to address busing and school pickup changes often. It's reality. It's what I did today, and it's what I do too frequently. I acknowledge my privilege in being able to do so. Some aren't able to check devices and see notifications. We rely on this not only for school. Parents' jobs are being affected, childcare arrangements, parents are scrambling to make accommodations. The negative domino effect can no longer be the norm. Daily on-time attendance is what ensures our children's education to be successful, and test scores reflect that. We all are aware that scores are down due to attendance. Part of that is true. However, our children experienced a life-changing pandemic in 2020, and we are still all adjusting to the many transitions that occurred. Children getting to and from free public transportation should not be a stress to parents daily, which then affects risk score statistics, which all of you are familiar with. My children ride the bus on the way home. My children are privileged to have a parent who is able to pick them up as needed when busing is consistently unreliable. Reliable and dependable? No. Count days in 2 days.
Time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Superintendent comments.
Didn't we have one?
Oh,
Is it possible I just had a quick.
we still will need a card from you, Aaron. If you can get one.
Well, he's getting a card. I don't have any comments for this evening.
All righty. And then I will kind of start with board comments. I'll start with Mr. Liggett.
I don't have no comments tonight.
All righty. And then Ms. Milton.
So this is the first time I've been part of a committee or a team that's so publicly facing. I'm really used to having just kind of banter and back and forth amongst the team. So as I'm learning how to do this and how to ask questions appropriately, I just thank you for your patience in entertaining the things that I kind of just need to get in my head before making really big decisions on, things like finances, and that will impact students. But I just want to say how much I appreciate the work that's going on in GRPS, and that's why I'm spending this much time and energy here with this group of people, because I believe it's really a great place to be.
Thank you so much. Aaron Wilson, if you'll come forward, you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, I think I can be quick. When I can, I substitute teach, and I was at the Southeast Career Pathways on December 1st when there was an incident at a neighboring house, and I just think that the response was really amazing. Like Dr. Roby was there, and Larry Johnson was there, and I felt really included which I didn't think that was required of Dr. Roby or the principal, but it was just clearly reflective of a really good structure that was anticipating that bad things can happen, and it was authentic, and it just made the whole thing livable. I mean, the kids, I came back the next day, and it was clear that the reason that things were able to progress was because of the response. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All righty. And Mr. Eatman.
Oh, comments. Okay, I was like, I didn't have my hand up. Well, I have some closing remarks, which is just I want to thank everybody for coming out, and also the staff for answering the questions. I share the same sentiments as Sarah in regards to wanting to know before we say yes on some things. And so I appreciate not only the audience and the staff that is willing to answer our questions as they come in, but also the support of the board in regards to making sure that we are informed to make the best decisions for our scholars with all various inputs. So thank you all for your continuous work with us.
Ms. Downs-Lewis?
Yes, I have a personal invitation to the KIASD dinner on March the 8th, 6 to 8. Some of you attended last year because we were at museum school, so a lot of people attended. But this is a dinner, and there will be a speaker, but this is a dinner sponsored by the Kent Intermediate Association of School Districts. And sometimes I think that group gets overlooked a little bit, but they do some good things. And having this dinner and having a speaker, and the speaker will be speaking about something current in our school day. And the other thing I would like to talk about is the classes from Michigan Association of School Board. And I know some of us have already taken these classes, but there are classes on finance, there are classes on social and emotional well-being, there are classes on everything, finance, everything. And these classes now are being reimbursed. $100 for the cost of the class will be reimbursed, so it's not going to be nearly as expensive. They run around. Some of them run around $300, I think, and some of them are like maybe $50 or something if you do it on the web. But these classes are so important. I think our board should be encouraged to attend these classes. Some of them are online, so you'll be able to do it online. But I think the $100 off the top makes a big difference for the school, obviously, for Grand Rapids Public Schools, but also maybe encouraging some of you to take these classes. Thank you.
Mr. Ross?
Comment.
Ms. Shockey? Mr. Rodriguez?
I want to echo just what some of my colleagues have said. We're all up here trying to make the best decision we can with the information that we have. And I know that GRPS, all of us are committed to, improving the outcomes of our scholars. And I also would like to, express my gratitude for all the work that is being done, as well as, patience as we learn how to navigate board work. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Davis?
Give a quick shout out to Southwest Elementary. They had a STEM night last week. It was a family night. The gym was full of families, and there were at least 20 to 30 tables where kids could do different experiments. There was a human brain that they got to touch and talk to a brain surgeon, and just lots of really cool engagement, and just a good night overall. So those things are happening in every building, but that's the one I attended recently.
Thank you. Ms. Wade?
I just want to say that it was very refreshing. I know Aaron left, but to hear something positive in the comments. And I appreciate whatever response that you gave made a huge impact on the way he sees our security systems, and it just made me feel good tonight.
I have no comment, and this meeting is adjourned.